Welcome to the Orville City Council meeting of August 17th, 2021, where we are just reconvening from closed session where direction was given and no action was taken. I'm calling this meeting to order for open session. Please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Salute. Looking for a motion to adopt the agenda.
I move that we adopt the agenda.
Second.
Motion carries with 7 yeses and 0 nos.
At this time, we will open the meeting up for public communication. This is the time for the public to speak on non-agenda items.
Our first speaker is Bill Spear.
Council, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, I'd like to open us up in prayer. Lord, we thank you for this day, the gift of life, the gift of salvation. Thank you for all that you're doing. Thank you for the public servants, our city council. We pray that you would bless them, give them wisdom, use them to guide our city to prosperity, to deal with the hard issues, and give them courage and protection and provision. We lift up all the firefighters to you and pray for you to protect them and be with them. All the people who have lost their homes and businesses, we pray that you would intervene and comfort them in the midst of the trial and the tribulations. We thank you that you are always there, even in the struggle. You were there. We pray for all our kids that are starting back in school, and we ask that you would be with them, with the teachers, with give them peace in the midst of the plague and COVID. Lord, we ask that you continue to open things back up, continue to give us victory. We pray for our police. We pray for all the public people serving the public. We pray for the rescue mission, the Hope Center, caring for women. All of the service clubs that says the greatest of all shall be the servant of all. And so we just ask your blessings today upon your people. In Jesus' name, amen.
Our next speaker is the cameraman, and then Kay Castro.
Good evening, Oroville City Council. Good to see you all here tonight. A couple meetings back, I did speak about not having an update to one of my speeches regarding misconduct in the Orville Police Department. I am here tonight to say I did receive a response to that public records request I made from the city attorney, and basically it boils down to, without confirming or denying the existence of an investigation, any responsive documents of such records are exempt from disclosure under the Public Records Act. So whether this lieutenant did or did not do anything, we may never find out because it's exempt under the Public Records Act. So that's the update I have regarding that matter. And speaking of the police department, now a couple meetings back, there was a gentleman here about communicating to the council here about his woes that he's had with the building department. Now, I don't know his full extent of his story other than what he's presented at the council, but in regards to the building department, I'm pretty sure we're all aware of the Orville Police Department. It's still, you can't go in the lobby since that individual decided to deliberately ram their pickup truck into it. It seemed almost like overnight they had a building permit, and yet we see pretty much no progress. I mean, the only thing that's been added now is a window to speak through instead of having to pick up a phone. But from my understanding, that's not always somebody may or may not be there, so you still have to pick up the phone. But there's looks like been little to small increments of progress, but we got a guy that wants to do a job site and has people walking off because he can't do any progress. So what's up with that? Anyways, thanks for the time, and that's it.
Our next speaker is Kay Castro and then Bobby O'Reilly.
Good evening, everyone. I, first of all, had a very exciting Parks Commission meeting the other day, and I want to thank staff for adding a couple of reports that we really asked for, as far as a backlog report and information on reporting back to us on activities. So I really wanted to thank them for that. I also wanted to thank them for doing more verbatim minutes for us as well. The minutes are becoming more detailed, which really helps when you only meet periodically. It really does help to be on the same page. Speaking of that, we did have a little controversy in that what was written on the agenda and what was written in the staff packet were different after about a half-hour conversation. And thank goodness Mr. Legrone was here and came up and said, wait a minute, it's a little bit different discussion. So reluctantly, I actually voted for the motion. I went back home and I re-watched it. That's English, re-watched it. And my commissioner opinion is my personal opinion that the commission should go back and readdress it and vote on something that's written, not something that was just told to us last minute from the podium. I also very much believe that a 6-foot wrought iron fence around Sank Park does need more than a couple of hour Parks Commission notice so that we can do our jobs as commissioners and talk to the community. We do public hearings for billboards on Feather River Boulevard. Heck, don't you think we could at least do a little more time and consideration for something as important as our landmark down on Montgomery Street? So I would like to rescind my vote, but I can't, so I'm here to tell you about it. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor and Council, just for clarity, we're not putting a fence in. That was merely a discussion about making application for grant funding for potentially put a fence. So any further discussion regarding what the fence will be, who all reviews it, how it gets done, will be done after we obtain the funding. This was just merely notification to the Parks Commission that we were going to attempt to obtain funding for a fence of that nature. So that's why the discussion shifted, was because that we have to keep in mind that money is for not only one facility, but for all facilities. And if we get too ornate in one, we'll spend all of it on one side of the one facility. So it is not a decision that's been made. It's not set in stone. So the commissioners will have another opportunity to review this and to provide their input. This is merely just we're beginning an application process, and we wanted to make the Parks Commission aware that we are applying for these dollars for that purpose.
Bobby O'Reilly.
Good evening, council. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, they
we
can hear you.
Okay, thank you. I always like to make sure, because technology, you never know. Hopefully it's not as loud as I've heard the speaker be. Previously, at the last council meeting, I had reported that I was going to be doing an award ceremony of sorts for 2 of the Orville firefighters, and you guys were all invited to that. However, I have had to put that on hold. I am working on the Dixie fire. I am out of town. I just wanted to let you guys know that while I'm out of town working on the Dixie fire, that particular project will be on hold, and I will let you guys know when I resume that. Just wanted to let you know. Thank you for all you do. Have a good evening.
Mr. Mayor, that is the last speaker on non-agenda items.
And with that, we'll close public communication. I'm looking for a motion to adopt the consent calendar.
I move that we adopt the consent calendar.
I'll second that.
Motion carries with 7 yeses and 0 nos.
Moving on to regular business, item number 4, fire dispatching services contract with CAL FIRE.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. What you have before you tonight is consideration of a professional services contract with CAL FIRE for dispatching services for fire protection in the city of Orville. The reason why this contract is necessary is because staffing levels at the public safety facility dispatch center have fallen to a level in which we are below what our minimum number of dispatchers is. In order to hire dispatchers, we would have to hire them, bring them in, train them, get them ready to go. And by the time that we got to the end of the training process, the contract with CAL FIRE for fire protection services in the city of Orville would come into play, and we would essentially be laying the people off because they are not part of that contract. So what staff is requesting to do is to contract with CAL FIRE for fire-related dispatching services in an amount of $156,740, not to exceed that amount. This will be paid for out of the salary savings from the vacancies that are in the public safety dispatch centers now. So we are not asking for additional dollars. We will use the dollars that exist in the current budget. This is for a 24-hour day, 7-day-a-week professional dispatching services of our fire protection services in the city of Orville with CAL FIRE at the ECC, which is the Emergency Command Center.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any comments from the public on this item?
Mr. Mayor, I do have 3 public speakers. Our first speaker is Steve Terry.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council. On this, I certainly can understand the situation, but what I really want to come down to, it's a little bothersome because it seems to kind of usher in the whole CAL FIRE thing early, and it's an appearance thing. It's not I'm not accusing anybody, please don't think that. But there is a problem here that I do want to address. Our public safety department has a problem. Whatever the problem is, whether it's systemic or whatever that problem is, I don't know. We're losing police officers, we're losing dispatchers, we're losing firefighters. Now, the firefighters we started losing after we did the LAFCO, and the decision that all our firefighters want to go to CAL FIRE has certainly proven to be false. But we're losing out of every department. And that is the real problem that I see that needs to be addressed. Why are we losing? The appearance is that people don't want to work for the city of Orville in public safety. And I'm concerned about that. I'm a citizen of Orville. I'm concerned about it. You know, if we need the police department, you want to have police officers. If you got a call dispatch, you want to be able to have a dispatcher there. You know, there's an issue here, and it's more than just losing out of dispatch. And we need to take a look at the whole situation as to why it's happening. Thank you.
Our next speaker is the cameraman.
Good evening again, ladies and gentlemen of the Orville City Council. Not going to speak too much on this item, but I wanted to throw my 10 cents in and say, well, you know, there was a lot of talk on Facebook of how, oh, this isn't, you know, I know nothing's been approved yet. It's just on the agenda. But there was a lot of talk on Facebook of how this isn't going to happen. You're talking out the hole in your neck. You're an idiot. You're a moron. You don't know anything. But here we are. Item is on the agenda. Fire dispatching services contract with CAL FIRE. People said it wasn't going to happen. But here we are tonight on the agenda. Item number 4. But in regards to some of the dispatchers, yeah, we desperately need dispatchers. Someone, I don't know the exact number, but someone was saying to me that we have 2 dispatchers for the city of Orville. I do agree that we need more dispatchers, but from my understanding, one of the reasons that some of the dispatchers may or may not be leaving is because of the actions of Lieutenant Zarate, of what he may have done or not have done, but we may never know about that. But that's one of the reasons that my sources have told me why dispatchers are leaving, and other members of law enforcement in Butte County, because they're just tired of corruption issues, and some are just generally taking better positions and better pay elsewhere. But you can't really do much about that other than offer a more competitive deal. But that's what America is. That's business and how things work. We can't really do much about that, but we can do things about potential corruption issues. So, thank you.
Mr. Mayor and Council, that's absolutely incorrect. The statement is really unwarranted and unneeded. I mean, it has nothing to do with Lieutenant Zarate or Lieutenant Zarate's position at the police or fire department. Those comments aren't appreciated or anything else. That's if you want to keep your chatter on Facebook and have that there, that's great. This isn't Facebook. And if you wonder why things come here and decisions get made, because this is where decisions get made, not at Facebook. So yes, here it is. Yes, a decision is going to be made.
Our last speaker on this item is Bobby O'Reilly.
Good evening once again. With all due respect, to comment on Mr. Legron's comment, this is a time for public to make our comments or opinions on any matter that's on the agenda, regardless if somebody feels that they are warranted or not. The public may make any comment they would like on the matter. We may not all agree on them. However, we have to respect the rights that we have to make comments on these items. With that said, to the topic, I have one question that I hope can get answered, and then I have a comment. My comment is that I find this unfortunate that we are in the situation that we're in to have to contract the dispatching services out. I know a lot of money has been put into the dispatching center with programs and such, radios and everything else, so it's very unfortunate that this conversation is even taking place. My question is, if this is to be approved and a contract is made, will other contracts that the city has or agreements that the city has with other entities for services, will those carry over with this? That's all I have. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, that is the last public speaker on item 4.
Do we have any comments from the dais? Councilmember Pittman.
Yeah, thank you. I've got a question of the Mr. Tens, if he may come up to the podium. In this proposed contract, are there response policies or response issues going to change from what we do today? Or are you aware of any? My concern is, are they going to be pushing our apparatus out longer distances or changing that response plan that we have in place now?
Changing any response plan would be changing an auto aid agreement, which would have to come, which is a contract, which would have to come before council for approval for that. The only immediate change that I think that would happen right away that I think is beneficial is right now between the two dispatch centers there's a 2-minute delay, and that's due to transferring a 911 call that's received, whether that's needing an auto aid engine from the county or the county needing one from the city. That 2-minute delay will be taken away. Mm-hmm. So our auto aid area may expand just a little bit because of that reduction in the delay in time.
So, and I think I'm going to get in a little technical, but let me ask that question. You mentioned that. So the 911 comes direct to the Orville Police Department building, and then it's transferred to Butte County Fire.
Yes.
Okay. So, because are we an enhanced 911? Is that correct to use? The city's enhanced 911 goes direct to the building. I just want the public to understand that it goes direct there, and then we're going to be transferring over to the other dispatch center. Okay. Similar, did they ever fix the problem with cell phones when they make a cell phone call and where that cell phone goes to what dispatch center?
I believe that has been improved lately, yeah.
Okay.
They're able to pinpoint that exact location a little bit more thoroughly now.
So we get that call direct, because sometimes people didn't realize cell phone calls, if they were out of jurisdiction, or they didn't get the best and the quickest service. Okay. My concern is if the apparatus responses are going to be the same similar as we are today, that's fine. I mean, I understand the need. I think it's tragic that we've, fallen behind in the leadership in the police department to have the dispatch service be capable of performing for us. That's a problem. And this is a Band-Aid to that problem. I appreciate that. Thank you, sir.
Are there any other comments from the dais? Having none, I'm looking for a motion to adopt resolution number 8984.
A second?
Motion carries with 4 yeses and 3 nos.
Moving on to item number 5, council consideration of a potential ballot question regarding public safety services.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. What you have before you tonight for your consideration was a request of Councilman Pittman at the prior council meeting for a potential ballot measure regarding public safety services. The ballot measure that Councilman Pittman has suggested would potentially read, do the citizens of Oroville wish the city of Oroville public safety services of police and fire department be contracted out to other agencies? With that, I'll turn over to Mr. Pittman.
Yeah, thank you. This is a simple advisory to be put on the ballot to let the public's will be known by us as the elected officials. One of the difficulties I've had in this recent discussion about contracting out the fire department is that during the Measure U campaign and advertisements, I have never found one comment made that we're going to use the money to contract out services. It clearly was my intentions as I advertised for that and spoke in support of the Measure U that it would be used for the city of Orville services of police, fire, public works, and those necessary needs. I believe the public trusted that when we said that, and today we're ready to contract out one of the second most vital service in our business. And I think it's only right that the public has an advisory on this issue. It's pretty simple. Doesn't tie your hands to anything, just says this is what the public wishes to have done. And I can't understand something more simple than that. We got one letter from Mr. Brown, which I kind of found a little outrageous because he says we're abdicating our responsibility. We were voted in to make decisions. Well, I think it's totally the other way around, Mr. Brown. We are asking our responsibility to ask our voters, can you tell us what your wishes are? It's their dollar. It's not our dollar. We are set up here to spend that dollar wisely, efficiently, and effectively. And down the line, are we going to be contracting out the police department? We're already contracting out dispatch services because our leadership has failed us. As Mr. Terry mentioned, why are we having everybody leave? That's a problem, and we need a fix to the problem, and we need support of the community. I can tell you that if you don't want to have this measure on the ballot, that'll be the quickest way for you to lose an election, because you're saying you're not interested in the public's opinion. And it's just an advisory. Doesn't do anything other than let the elected officials in this community and the staff members know what can we plan and what should we plan for. I can't think of a better or fairer way to treat the taxpayer and the voter in this community. Doesn't cost much. Be added to the regular ballot, regular thing, and it just has a simple yes or no. So we just have to ask the public, please, what would be your opinion? What was your services you'd like to have in your community? It's their dime, it's not ours. That's pretty much all I have to say about it. Any other council members like to welcome?
I'll run the meeting, sir. Thank you. Are there any comments from the public?
Mr. Mayor, we have 3 public speakers. Our first one is Steve Terry.
Good evening again, council. To this issue, I've said, and I know some of the comments made have been, you've just heard from the three. And I've been one of the three, obviously, on this. Well, I don't believe there's just three. And here's a chance to show it. This is something the public should vote on. This is something you need to know. If nothing else, you can prove me wrong, or prove me right, one of the two. But I don't believe the community's behind this. I don't believe the community wants their fire service outsourced out any more than they want their police department outsourced out. And so the bottom line here is let the people speak. Let them have a vote in the decision. And even though it's not saying, yes, it's going to happen this way, it's just an advisory. But it sure is a good way to find out our opinion. And I can tell you already what my vote would be. I think you already know what my vote will be.
Next is Annie Terry.
I had to run out and get a cough drop out of the car because I got a scratch in my throat. I just wanted to, as a homeowner in the city of Orville, I wanted to speak to this. I voted in favor of Measure U, and the reason I did that was because I was against the marijuana initiative. And because I was against the marijuana initiative, I felt that I needed to put my money where my mouth is and be willing to put my tax dollars towards saving these. And I really felt that I was going to be saving some services that the city of Orville was already offering by doing so. I'm not in favor of outsourcing the fire department. I'm not in favor of outsourcing the police department. I like living in a small town. I wish I lived in a smaller town. Does that sound crazy? I'm not a big city girl, and I'm never going to be. But I feel that the people of Orville should be able to speak to that. On the marijuana initiative, I knew I was never going to put a single tax dollar into those coffers because I was against the initiative and I don't smoke weed. I'm not going to use marijuana in any form. So I felt that if I was so against that, I needed to be in favor of this because I am willing to put my tax dollars towards making this an amazing community to live in. Not so that it can grow and get bigger because, yeah, I don't necessarily want to live in a big city. But I do believe in this community. I believe in our fire department. I believe in our police department. Contract whatever you want to as far as other agencies, other businesses, but public safety is not where you want to put those contracted services out there. I don't think it's a good idea, and I think this is a great idea to have people vote on it. Thank you.
Our last public speaker is Bobby O'Reilly.
Thank you once again. From another one of the three, I would like to say that with the understanding that this would not change the direction, it wouldn't change the contract with CAL FIRE, it wouldn't change the direction, it wouldn't change anything of that nature. However, I do appreciate Councilman Pittman's initiative to get the public's input. As we all know, I ran for council, and my biggest thing is, as has been said by others, is we work for the people. You work for the people. You are elected to be the voice, to be the vote, to be the brains of what the people wish for you to do. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that whatever is of your personal opinion is the best thing to do. That means that your support, your constituents, their wishes is what you should be up there advocating for. The people who put you in the position you're in is what you should be up there advocating for. So I very much appreciate the initiative to ask the community, is this what you want? With so many things in our city being contracted out now, it seems like that's the direction that we're going, is to contract everything out. It's only a matter of time before our police department's contracted out. Lord forbid. So please, this isn't going to hurt anything. It's not going to affect anything. Just hear what your public has to say. Just hear where our heart beats at, so that you can understand what we're asking. And, you know, so you don't have to say you haven't heard from us.
Mr. Mayor, that was the last speaker on this item.
Thank you. Do we have any comments from the dais? Councilmember Pittman.
Yeah, one of the things I failed to mention is this is an advisory vote. And as the advisory doesn't bind you to anything, it simply says what the public would like to have, whether it's one or the other. And if you make a decision as a council elected person that is contrary to what the advisory is, then just simply have a good reason for doing it. That's all it is. And when the public gets a chance to vote, we need to create a confidence builder in our elected officials and the public's response to this, because that's what's lacking in a lot of discussions that occur. People don't trust what government's doing. Well, here's one advisory. And if the advisory goes one way or the other, at least we can all be very settled with it, whatever it may be. I mean, you shouldn't be afraid of this. I certainly don't fear this at all, because this is going to be a simple matter of a question. Where would your police and fire services like to come from? That's just that it. You own these services, and I think it's very simple. As an advisory, you're not changing anything other than getting the people's will and their thought pattern on this. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Thompson.
Thank you. I think it is important for us to listen to our constituents, very much so. In fact, I'll read the letter that Councilman Pittman referenced to Mr. Michael Brown emailed the city council here. It said, from the Orville City website, the Orville City Council is elected by the citizens of Orville to guide the public policy affairs of the community. The council is composed of 7 members, including the mayor, who is elected at large. You as a council both have the both necessary authority and equally the responsibility to make policy decisions on behalf of those who elected you. You do so by your vote. I find it objectionable that the city, the council, having been thoroughly debated publicly policy decision, and I would agree we've done this for several council meetings, each time having public input, would even consider throwing its obligation back to the voters who elected you. Your staff report example, do the citizens of Orville wish the city of Orville Public Safety Services of police and fire department be contracted out to other agencies? Is a slap to the public's face who purposely selected you as council members to make such decisions on our behalf. With the mayor elected at large and 6 additional city council members, the citizens, through the city charter, have spoken well, been included via public comment, and got a decision regarding the city fire rescue services. Police services is a separate issue. Don't purposely try to confuse those who elected you. Already the city has successfully and without ballot measure involved city residents in contracted and or regional animal control, mosquito vector control, sewer treatment, water service treatment, JPA, all of those which are in fact public safety services. There is no need to abdicate your responsibility under the city charter for any other reason. During, and that's the end of respectfully submitted, Michael G. Brown. I just want to add, during the whole debate, since it was brought up as well about marijuana, I was absolutely in favor of bringing that to public vote, because I'm sure most of us were here during that time. That was something was objectionable to this community, even so much so that this council chambers was packed, because our community does pay attention, and when there are upset or objecting on a matter, they make it known. In fact, with that matter, they made it so known that we had to move this city council meeting to the State Theater to listen to all the residents who were opposing that matter. So anyway, in regards to this decision, we have been talking about it for a long time and then delaying it for this reason or for that reason, which were important reasons. We need to hear other options, look at all the avenues that we could go as a city council, allowing in each one of those discussions the public to weigh in and speak as far as their opinion on the matter. So at this point, I just see this as another opportunity to delay or continue to try to divide. But I believe that with each one of these, we have listened to our residents and given them opportunity to speak on the matter.
Councilmember Smith.
Yeah, I'd just like to speak to, and provide a little different perspective. Several years ago, when I sat on OCESD as a school board member, we had before us the question of Bird Street, the school, and closing that school. And that's finally happened, I believe, at this point. But the concern was, you know, there are families, moms and dads, grandparents, that's their alma mater. I mean, that's where they went to school. There's a lot of cherished memories that are tied to that location. But the challenge as a school board we were facing at that time was declining ADA, average daily attendance, because Orville at that time was a city in decline. Very similar to what the previous city council was facing with the potential of fiscal insolvency. We were faced with some of those same challenges. And, you know, so the question was, do we close that school to save funds? And yet, you know, there were very energized individuals that resisted that because of the, you know, the kind of the fraternity feel. And I think in large part, I think we have a similar kind of, I think, feel here within the community because it's a beloved department, the fire department, and the history. But yet, we're a community that's in transition. We are changing. There are things that we have to tackle, just as I had to tackle those issues with the school board. And, you know, right away, what comes to mind is quality of life. You know, as much as we love a small town, with the school board, the issue there is that you have to have a certain level of growth as a community for a school to remain fiscally solvent. You have to have younger families coming in. There's just a lot of moving pieces to community development. Doesn't mean you have to grow like crazy and become a massive city overnight. But without some of those key components for a community goes in decline because you have an aging population. I think about the hospital, you know, the $200 million commitment. And all those professionals that are going to need housing, for an example. You know, they're looking, and as we as a community wrestle with tackling that for appropriate housing for those professionals, quality of life, teachers that would want to come and serve our schools, or work on the profession of the medical service. All of these things, to me, go to the core issue of quality of life, our community, and tackling a very difficult issue. But again, as we transition from really a small town to maybe more of a mid-sized town, these are the growth issues and the pains that I think a city is challenged with. When part of my question with this is that it's, as we think about this, I do feel that it's a little bit kind of looking in the rearview mirror, because at this point it would seem, you know, if it's just the police or the fire, you know, those are separate issues. I think that some might feel one way about one service versus the other, you know, in an advisory aspect. And I think that, again, the public has every right, and certainly I think we're all interested in knowing what the will and the desire of the public is. And I think that's important that we're reflecting that. And I just say that process, in part, we have been going through that process. We have had public meetings and hearings. And this obviously is a very energized issue with very deep feelings. But my reflection, I guess, is with the school board, the feelings about that school that has such treasured memories. And I think those things can be preserved. I think moving forward, if the CAL FIRE, we regionalized. I think that a lot of those dynamics and the history and all of that can be preserved in a way that's meaningful. But at the end of the day, for me, the question is depth of service, quality of service, being able to provide that service. And then I think about the fact, just another thing to consider. Early on, our city put itself in a position where there's a lot of potential conflict. And I think we have 3 water districts. We have multiple school districts. We don't have a unified school district. We have 3 fire services that provide service. We have El Medeo, we have OFD, we have CAL FIRE Station 63 that answers all the calls north of the river. So duplication of service, duplication of cost, and it is important for our council to tackle those things to try to provide the best product, the best level of service to its constituents. And so I would hope that all of us up here are looking at that data, that information, and trying to make the most qualified decision with that sounding board of the public and the public's wishes. But these are just big issues. I think it's really important that the public understands kind of the challenges, and even other boards, school boards. There's other public entities here that are, struggle with a lot of these issues. And so I know for me, I'm personally very reflective. I listen, even those that, I have respectfully disagreed with. I listen to all of the opinions and concerns that are there. But this, again, my concern here is kind of a rearview mirror effect, and the potential for breeding more, I think, clash that's not productive. Again, going to that Bird Street, going to some of these other issues, and I don't know how much this would service. Now, if we had, this is not. If you had a consultant, oh God, don't spend more money on a consultant. But I mean, if we had a survey, a professional survey that really could provide, I think, some in-depth information, that probably would be useful at where we are today in the process. But this will happen after, assuming everything moves along and the timelines move along. Kind of, again, it's a rearview mirror effect. And so I just am concerned about engendering more controversy and conflict in our community as we are in this kind of struggle and this kind of time here of a lot of changes that are occurring. And it's hard. Change is hard. As one pastor friend of mine said, change is hard, but growth demands it. It's a cliche, but I think that it's apropos in the moment.
Thank you. Councilmember Riggs.
Thank you. I just wanted to share that part of my concern with this question, I have a few parts. The first being that the way that it's written invokes an immediate no response instead of critical thinking and thoughtful thinking on the item, as all of these council members have, especially when looking at contracting out. I will share, though, that again, because it's simply an advisory item instead of, it's just the opportunity for the community to share their perspective, I would argue that we have provided that in multiple meetings of this council, of public meetings at the municipal auditorium, and then in my own experience at the grocery store, on the sidewalks, and via my cell phone or Facebook page. So I think that we have really, at least I know that I have remained open and provided plenty of opportunity for community members to share their perspectives, and simply having a yes or no response removes the nuance of such decision making. I think conversely, we could say, do you want the council to make decisions that ensure the best possible public safety? Well, that's going to invoke an automatic yes, of course response. And so I think that when we narrow it down to these like yes, no's, we're not doing a real service to anybody. I do agree that what Councilmember Smith shared about a survey regarding the level of service that we're providing would be beneficial. It allows us to see areas for growth. As Pastor Steve Terry shared, we clearly have some issues in the public safety department that need to be addressed. Who knows those better than our staff and our community? So I do support the idea of doing a public survey regarding our service levels across the board. I think that that is valuable feedback for government. And then I will also say one final item that I'm concerned with this is that although it is just advisory and it doesn't tie our hands on anything, it does still, it's just advice that is, although fairly cheap, doesn't account for the staff time or the salary-wise or the loss of productivity on things that they could be spending their time doing that actually move our city forward. So that would be my third concern on this item. And simply that I think that our staff time can be better spent to ensure that our community is moving forward in the proper direction and in the way that our community members want to see it grow.
Thank you. Are there any other comments from the dais?
Yeah, I'd like to finish one if I may.
Member Pittman.
Thank you. And I appreciate the discussion. It's still an interesting dialogue because if you remember one of the first meetings that we had this topic, we couldn't fill this room because of COVID restrictions, but we had hundreds of people standing outside supporting the fire department issue. And we just disregarded those people. We also had a petition signature drive by other people and created 300 signatures of people supporting the fire department. We had at least a dozen more email communications, only one in support of the CAL FIRE. So my thing is, I believe this council has disregarded that discussion and you've turned off the public. Wouldn't it be a nice idea that, gee whiz, we'll consider your opinion? Doesn't do anything other than it's advisory. And if the debate you think is adequate, then why didn't we pay attention to those first people? We just disregarded those people. The sign carriers out front, they were using bullhorns. We just disregarded those people. I think this would be a great idea to let them speak their piece. And guess what? What if they say no? Or what if they say yes? Wouldn't that be a novel idea? At least it would give this body a heads up to which way to go. Because we've already disregarded the people that came and spoke in favor. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Thompson.
Not to keep going back and forth on this, but once the information came out regarding, more information came out about CAL FIRE contract and a comparison analysis, I definitely didn't see them outside anymore. So just saying.
Councilmember Pittman.
Thank you. Excuse me. I still ask the question. I produced a document that it said it's going to cost us 1.2 million more than what we're paying for the Apple right now. No one's ever answered that question. They just simply say I'm wrong. Well, I don't think I'm wrong. The math is very simple to look at. It's a much higher administrative charge than what we're spending right now for this city. We spend 6.08% administratively for all our services, and we're going to be charged a contract 11.97%. That's fine. You don't want to listen to that? That's fine. You make your decision based upon those other numbers. I don't know why you're doing it, but no one's been able to answer that question. That's the part that the public has tried, and you simply say it's been debated. Well, it hasn't really been properly debated other than, well, we think he's wrong. And we keep pushing the apple down the line here. I don't think this is over. I tell you right now, this community once already addressed this issue. I was here when that happened, and the public reeled from it and just simply said, we're not going to do that. And if you need to have the public say that, fine. What would happen, boy, if you got a vote that said, yes, we want to have this done? What are you afraid of? Thank you.
Councilmember Goodson.
I just want clarification in regards to how we're to move forward with this. Are we looking to, is this a motion-based agenda item? Is it majority, nod of heads? What?
It could be done either way. It can be done by consensus, or there can be a motion and a second, and then a vote of the council. A vote is not needed, though, because in order for this to go on to a ballot, it would have to come back, and the council would have to adopt a specific language and go through the process for that.
All right. I'm in favor of moving forward with this.
Can I make a recommendation? Are you finished? We've got some things coming up that are going on the ballot regarding the charter. I say that and we've got plenty of time moving into this election next year, which is where this question would be placed at the request of a council member. I would recommend that we set this to the side and address our charter. And as we're going through it and deciding what we want on the ballot, we can decide at that time whether we want to move forward with a question. I don't think this question is the one that would go on there, but a question that would be clear and unleaning in any direction. So that would be my recommendation to this council, is that we set it aside and move forward with what we're working on with the charter and reevaluate this at a later date. Is that fair, Councilman?
Yeah,
Councilman Pittman?
Yeah, and as Councilman Riggs suggests, that maybe that could be reworded properly. I got no problem with that. I think that's a reasonable idea. I have no problem. We just created the notion. I got no problem with moving it down the line. That works. At least we can create some text that you're comfortable with. I have no problem with that at all. It's a great suggestion.
So I believe it's the consensus of this council to set this item aside and revisit it at a later date when staff is working on ballot issues.
Sure.
Are we in agreement?
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have our direction.
Thank you. With that, we will move on to council announcements and reports. Is there anyone from this dais that has any announcements or reports? Councilmember Riggs.
Thank you, Mayor Reynolds. I just wanted to share, one of my committee assignments is the Downtown Orville Business Association, and recently they were awarded a grant through the Supplemental Benefits Fund to work towards revitalizing the Miners Alley region within downtown. And so I just wanted to share that progress has begun. The lighting, one of the components is lighting, adding gooseneck lightings down the alleyway in order to provide improved visibility and then also bring some ambiance to that area. And so that has been completed, and the next step will be painting and then some artwork. And Sean Pierce is beginning to recreate the archways, because we'll have matching archways on the other side of the alley as well. So just wanted to share from the Downtown Orville that they are very excited about this project and very appreciative from the city and the Supplemental Benefits Fund to get to do this. It's been really well received so far. The second part is that I wanted to share that we have in the downtown district seen 6 new businesses in the past 3 months, and then have several others that are lined up to open in the near future or who are currently looking for locations as well. So there's a lot of development and a lot of excitement downtown. And we just voted for a new president, which is TJ Jensen. We're very happy to have him. He's going to be a very great leader for our group. And I believe that's all.
Great. Councilmember Smith.
So just to help me here, Councilwoman Riggs, TJ, he talked about Orville's really the hot place when it comes to economic development, and where developers or other businesses are looking to kind of re-anchor or anchor or start a business here. So I think the downtown business is doing a great job of just cultivating that interest. So I just appreciate that. With the Salmon Festival, sitting on the Salmon Festival committee, there's been some questions about where that's at, because COVID and just all the challenges that are before us as a community. I want to announce that that is moving forward. All the various stakeholders have been in regular meetings, and there's been kind of a slow rollout as to what that's going to look like because, changes constantly. So before that is advertised as to the different agencies and participants, who that's going to be and what that's going to look like, there's been some delays. So just kind of reporting out from the Salmon Festival committee that I sit on. It's scheduled, it's planned, it's going to happen. So soon you'll be seeing some things rolling out publicly.
Thank you. Anyone else? I'd like
I'd like to,
Councilman Pittman.
I was looking through the public safety report, and I'd like to have maybe the fire department come up and talk more about the other activities going on. There's a simple numbers here in terms of calls and whatnot, but I believe you got a lot of folks out and about, especially your air rescue.
Yeah, that's what I was going to discuss during department reports. I'm glad you brought it up. So first off, good evening, council, mayor. The Dixie Fire, we continue to provide mutual aid to the Dixie Fire. We have our airport rescue that's been out for roughly 35 days straight, and they are supporting the air bases. And the air bases have recently moved from Orville, and they follow around and they provide the support for the air base there. And we also have a Type 2 engine 2 is out. They've just been extended to 21 days, so they'll continue out for roughly another 7 days, and we'll continue that support as long as we can do that to provide any kind of assistance to our neighboring communities that we can. But in reference to the other department report, as far as our stats, our average calls per year for service has been increasing through the years, and it's kind of been a slow increase, gradual increase. And I want to say last year we topped out around 4,500 calls, maybe a little bit more. I checked the other day. As of today, we're over 4,000 calls already and still several months left to go. So we're looking at one of the busiest years we've ever had.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
I noticed CAL FIRE used our airport as a base of operation for the big Hueys, I think, and other choppers. Maybe you can just share with us how Orville participates in, and how important our airfield is to that operation.
Yeah, so the proximity, so they're looking at proximity of where the fire is and reducing the time that it takes to fuel up and add whatever support they need to the helicopters and get back to the incident to make those bucket drops. And because there's so much aircraft coming in and out, it's a helibase that was at Orville Hospital specific to helicopters. We provide our airport rescue, which is specifically designed for crash rescue of an aircraft that can suppress fuels and stuff that sort, or the tools needed to get into potentially rescue a pilot or a crew that's inside there. But they'll move the base as the fire's moving, and that's what they've done recently, and that just cuts down on fuel costs and time to get back and forth. So.
Thank you. I'd like to comment on Councilmember Riggs' comment about the downtown. We had opportunity to go to a friend's 60th birthday party the other night, and at the Gray Nurse, and then we walked around downtown and went to a few different establishments and checking in, and the downtown was absolutely buzzing, and there was, and I don't mean from the alcohol, I mean, there was so much activity that it just really felt good. It was really nice to see that activity from the public and the participation and the safe feeling with all the lighting, and so I'm in agreement with you. There's a lot of good things happening here, and I hope we all remember to remember those things as well. So if there are no more announcements from the council, I will move on. Future agenda items. Having None at this time. Administration reports, Mr. Legron.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Just a few updates for the council. Just want to update the council. We have a new police officer that started with us about a week and a half ago. He is doing very good in his training program. He is a lateral officer from a more northern county that decided to come down here and join us. We have 3 dispatchers, one of which will be a lateral that we have hired. 2 are in training right now, so we are picking up in that area. We also have another police officer that's in the background process right now. So our staffing issues are starting to resolve themselves. Unfortunately, we do have another dispatcher, or I'm sorry, a police officer that will be going to another local agency here shortly. One of our dispatchers recently left who just, and I'm not throwing gas on a fire, but she went to CAL FIRE to dispatch there. It's just how things worked out. So, things are looking better for that department as far as our staffing and getting us to where we need to be with that. One other announcement that I'd like to have, that we're going to have a little bit more of a, for lack of a better term, celebration at our next meeting, is that last week I promoted Wright to sergeant. So Breck has been here with us for 10 years. Breck has done a good job for us, and Breck has earned that opportunity to help correct this ship and take this department into the direction in which it needs to go. So I just want to announce that and congratulate Breck. I'm very proud of Breck. We've been meeting locally and collaborating with our Downtown Business Association, with our DWR, which those two things are going to connect together. We are working on what we hope to be some river improvements when there is a regraveling process that goes in there into our river. So we have been collaborating with them, and we're also currently collaborating with the Orville Elementary School District on some disaster relief projects that will be beneficial not only to the school districts but also to the city, using our CDBG DR dollars. So as those things become more clear as to what we're going to be suggesting to the council with those dollars and those projects, we'll be bringing those back to you in the next few council meetings. I'd also like to just remind the council that we are on the verge of starting districting again. So just, if you remember any of that, start wrapping your mind around that process again, and we're going to be jumping into that again in September. So that's all I have.
Mr. Lando, please.
I would simply say that I echo the community is geared up for economic development. Clear the path for that, and their attended a bank here in Orville. There are many things being done. Dawn's leading the effort on trying to get municipal service review done. That's a consultant issue, it's not urgent. And as we mentioned before, the vehicle mile travel issue, staff's working on. That's just to clear the way for economic development. That's it.
Apologize for forgetting to mention Golden Valley Bank. That was quite a celebration and quite an accomplishment. So, thank you. Steve the barber? No. Chief?
Yeah, I just had one additional thing to add to what I spoke on earlier, but fire department's also been heavily involved in the recruiting process. We have one candidate that just finished up backgrounds, passed medical. Hopefully we can get him on soon. Desperately need that body for a little bit of help. And then we have another candidate that's in the mid process of backgrounds. And then we just opened up for an application process for 2 more. So we're recruiting away. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Goodson?
Chris, my question to you is, how many OFD are we down?
4 positions. 2 should be filled very soon.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Huber?
Nothing, sir.
Ruth?
I attached to the agenda the CalPERS report that came out in January. So just to let everybody know that their preliminary report is a 21.3% investment return. Never seen anything like that. But it did trigger a discount rate reduction to 6.8, And what that means to us is our $25 million liability went down to about 16 because of the high investment return, but then went back up to 19 because they lowered the discount. So we're about 19, and I just want to stress that this is just an estimate. You know, if they made 20% for the next 10 years, we wouldn't have an unfunded liability at all, but we know that's not going to happen. So we're still pursuing the pension obligation bond discussion too. So just wanted to let everybody know.
Thank you, and thank you for the amazing job you do, Ruth. I mean, everyone just, it's a great team, and sometimes we forget the different parts of the machine but you are in there hammering away, and thank you very much. Dawn?
Thank you. In addition to the monthly departmental updates, our code enforcement department has been working intensively on some alleyway areas in South Oroville. In 2 small T-shaped alleyways, they've removed approximately 4 tons of trash and debris in the last 3 days, from Friday, Monday, and today. They've also been clearing the brush and debris off of the levee, and so if you make it to Centennial Plaza this week and look over the river, you'll see that a lot of the brush and trash has been cleaned up in that area, and that effort will continue throughout the end of the summer. And then the Orville High School intersection that has been discussed recently, we have a temporary fix while the engineering for the permanent fix is underway. And then the barrier removal, which would be the addressing of the sidewalks, the lifted sidewalks in the downtown area, will begin at the end of this month through September. So you'll see some more activity in the downtown area.
Thank you, Tom. Appreciate it. Councilmember Riggs?
Thank you. Could you explain the Orville High School intersection again? It
So-
didn't click right away for me.
There is an intersection at the corner at Orville High School. It's Bridge and Yard, if I remember correctly. And the corners are not ADA or accessible compliant. So temporarily, we're going to be putting in some pavement so that the students that need that accessibility will have access to it to go from the main campus to these off-campus where the auto shop and the other outlying buildings are. That's temporarily going to be installed so that we can get the engineering done, get it out for RFP, and have that whole intersection reconstructed so that it is accessibly compliant for future use.
All right, thank you. I was hoping that it was the accessibility issue that
Yes,
was
it
brought
is.
up, and I'm encouraged to see that you guys are addressing that so quickly. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, with that, we will,
One item.
Councilmember Pittman.
Yeah, I just thought about it as she was talking. The contractors for the sewer plant inflow pump station are on site and starting their work very soon. And just to let y'all know, that's basically to bring in a different pumping system to increase the capacity of that at the sewer plant. So if you see a lot of work going on, they're on site, they're starting their process. It's a good thing to do. I think the bid was 7 million, if I remember. Is that
Yes.
7 million? So it's a big project, and they're going to be digging deep to put that inflow station in. So a big improvement for the score plant.
Thank you. With that, we will adjourn until September 7th, 2021 at 4 PM.
So here's a little